Hotels are supposed to be neutral places, temporary rooms, temporary beds, temporary neighbors. But when you stay somewhere long enough, you start to notice things you weren't meant to see. A door closing when no one's inside, a voice through the vent when the room next to you is empty, a shape standing under the hallway light, facing your door. Not moving, not breathing. Who's waiting? These stories came from people who thought they were checking in for a normal night. They all checked in, but none of them left the same way. Here are true hotel horror stories that prove some rooms don't want guests, they want replacements. I used to travel a lot for work, and most of my stays were forgettable. Same lobbies, same carpet pattern, same fake friendliness from staff. But last year around late October, I checked into a hotel in Nevada. That still sticks with me every time I try to sleep in a new room. I got there around 11 p.m. after a 5-hour drive. The hotel wasn't fancy, but it looked clean enough. The lobby had that quiet hum you only get at night when there is one staff member at the desk and no one else around. The guy at reception was young, probably my age. He checked my ID, gave me a key card, and said, "Room 209. Elevators to your right." Normal. Nothing strange. I took the elevator up, dragged my bag down the hallway, and noticed how unusually cold it felt. Not hot. Cold. More like the temperature you feel in basements or hospitals. The hallway lights flickered a little, but I didn't think much of it. When I got to my room, something felt off before I even unlocked the door. The handle looked slightly scratched, as if someone tried forcing it. I assumed housekeeping cards or keys did it. He went inside, tossed my bag on the chair, and walked around to check the usual hotel things locks, peephole, bathroom light. Everything was fine, or so I thought. About 10 minutes after settling in, I heard a loud thud from the room next to mine. Not a normal someone dropped their suitcase sound, more like someone fell. Hard. I paused and listened. Nothing. Then another sound, a dragging noise, like furniture scraping across the floor. I figured someone was moving a chair or something, and I ignored it. I turned on the TV to drown out the noise. Around midnight, I heard something even stranger. Someone knocked on my door, 3 slow knocks. Not forceful. Not like housekeeping. More like someone checking who was inside. I looked through the peephole. Hallway, empty. I opened the door slightly and leaned out. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. The entire hallway was still. I went back inside, locked the door, and turned the deadbolt twice, just to be safe. I tried to sleep around 1 a.m., but I couldn't. The room felt colder, and I swear the air had this faint smell, like someone had left damp clothes sitting in a corner for days. I checked the AC. It wasn't even running. Then I heard the knock again. Same pattern. 3 slow knocks. But this time, it wasn't on my door. It was on the door of room 209. My room. The knock was coming from inside the room I was in. For a solid 3 seconds, I froze. The sound was unmistakable. It wasn't the wall. It wasn't the next room. It was on my door from the inside, directly behind me. I turned around slowly. No one was there. Nothing was moving. My eyes scanned the room, waiting for someone or something to show. Nothing. I walked toward the door and pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. I didn't sleep at all. I sat in bed looking at the door until dawn. Around 6:30 a.m., I went downstairs to ask for a different room. The same guy from last night wasn't there. Instead, there was an older woman who looked exhausted. I told her what happened. I didn't sound crazy about it. Jess said the door made noise on its own. Maybe the frame was loose. She typed something into a computer and looked up at me with a confused expression. "You're in room 209. "Yes." She hesitated. "That room shouldn't have been assigned." "What do you mean?" "It's been out of service for a while. Plumbing issues. It's not even in the system as available." I told her the guy last night assigned it to me. She frowned and said, "We don't have any male staff working front desk overnight. Only me." I told her I checked in at 11. She shook her head. No one was on shift then. Our overnight receptionist quit 2 days ago. That's when I felt the cold again. The same cold from the hallway last night. I asked her if I could see the camera footage from the lobby, because I wanted to know who checked me in. She said the cameras in the lobby had been offline for a week. Perfect. She gave me a new room on the 3rd floor and apologized. But the way she kept glancing toward the elevator told me she knew something she was saying. I went back up to room 209 to grab my things, except when I reached the 2nd floor. Something wasn't right. The entire hallway was warm, bright, and normal, and room 209's door was wide open. Primera didn't leave it like that. I never leave hotel doors open. I walked inside slowly, half expecting someone to run out. But the room was empty. Everything looked the same except one thing. My suitcase wasn't where I left it. It was placed directly in front of the door, as if someone wanted me to see it the moment I walked in. I stood there staring at my suitcase for a good 10 seconds, trying to convince myself there was a simple explanation. Maybe housekeeping came in by mistake. Maybe they opened the wrong room. Maybe they thought I checked out, but none of that made sense. Housekeeping doesn't enter a room at 7 in the morning without knocking. They don't move guests' luggage, and they sure as hell don't leave the door wide open afterward. I walked around the room slowly. The cold from last night was gone. It actually felt warm, almost too warm. The smell was gone too. No dampness, no stale air. No sign anything weird ever happened. But one detail stood out immediately. The chair I had placed by the desk last night wasn't there. I found it in the closet, pushed all the way into the back corner, facing the wall. There's no version of me where I put a chair in a closet. That was enough to make my stomach drop. I put the suitcase back on the floor and crouched down to unzip it. Everything looked untouched, until I saw a piece of folded hotel stationery sitting on top of my clothes. I didn't put it there. I opened it. There were only 3 words, written in shaky handwriting. "You weren't alone." I stood up so fast, the suitcase tipped over. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. I backed toward the door, grabbed my bag, and walked out without looking behind me again. While I waited for the elevator, I heard movement inside the room. Soft footsteps, not heavy. Slow, like someone pacing in short, careful steps. I pressed the elevator button over and over, even though I knew it wouldn't make it come faster. The hallway felt longer, the lights dimmer, and something in my chest was telling me I shouldn't be standing there. When the elevator finally opened, I got inside and pressed the lobby button at least 6 times. As the doors started to close, I swear I heard someone take a long breath behind me from the hallway. I didn't turn around, I just let the doors close. When I got to the lobby, the older woman at the desk looked at me like she expected me to come back down, shaken. She asked if everything was okay. I told her what I found in the room. Her face went pale. I should call someone, she said quietly. Security, maybe the manager. No, I told her. I'm leaving. Just check me out. She hesitated again. Then she said something I still think about. That room hasn't been entered in weeks. After the plumbing problem, we shut it down. It doesn't even scan on our key logs. I showed her my card. She scanned it. It shouldn't work on any door except the one we assigned you this morning, she said. So how did it open 209? She didn't answer. She just looked toward the elevator again. I signed whatever I needed to sign and headed for the exit. Before I walked out, she called after me. Sir, that handwriting you saw on the note, can you describe it? Messy? Shaky? She swallowed hard. We had a long-term guest in 209 months ago. He left notes like that all over his room before he left. Left how? I asked. She lowered her voice. He went missing. Police never found him. His room was sealed for a while because they thought he might have been hiding somewhere in the walls or vents. That was all I needed to hear. I stepped outside and didn't look back. I felt watched the entire walk to my car. I didn't see anyone, but the feeling was strong enough that my hands were shaking when I unlocked the door. I drove away fast, faster than I should have, and when I checked my mirror as I turned onto the highway, I saw the window of room 209. Someone was standing behind the glass. Not close, not clear. Not clear, just a silhouette in the exact spot where my suitcase had been moved. And here's the part that bothered me the most. As I kept driving, the silhouette didn't move, didn't shift, didn't step back, didn't disappear. It just stayed there, watching, until the hotel became a speck in the distance. I've stayed in dozens of hotels since then, and every time I walk into a new room, I check behind the curtains, under the bed, inside the closet, and in the bathroom before I put my bag down. Because after that night, I learned something I wish I didn't. Some rooms aren't empty when you check in. They're waiting. I was in Chicago for a 3-day conference and booked a room at a mid-range hotel near the event center. Nothing fancy, just a basic business hotel with beige walls, overworked staff, and a carpet pattern ugly enough to cause headaches. My room was on the 10th floor. When I checked in, the guy at the desk gave me a polite warning. "Don't use the service hallways up on your floor," he said. "The ones marked staff only. Some of the latches are broken. You could get stuck." I didn't think much of it at the time. Every hotel has maintenance problems, and I had no reason to wander into a service hallway anyway. But that changed on the second night. The conference ended late. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was already past midnight. I rode the elevator up, walked out into the dim 10th floor corridor, and instantly noticed something off. It was too quiet. Hotels are rarely silent. You always hear doors closing, someone showering, distant TVs, cleaning carts, beeping. But this hallway felt vacuum sealed. Even my footsteps sounded muted. I got to my room, swiped my key, and the light stayed red. Tried again. Red. I tried it maybe 5 times before accepting the obvious. The card died. The elevator I came from was already halfway down the shaft. The only other way to the lobby was the stairwell at the far end of the hallway. I'd have to walk the entire length of the floor. No big deal. Until I saw the sign. Halfway down the hall, one of the doors labeled staff-only service access was cracked open. Just an inch or two. Enough to notice. Enough to make you wonder why. The lights above it were flickering. Not wildly. Just that slow, sick kind of flicker that feels intentional, even though it's not. As I walked past, I saw movement through the thin opening. Just a shift of shadow, like someone stepping out of view. I stopped. "Hello," I said, because apparently my survival instincts don't exist. No response. The door slowly drifted inward, like it had been pulled from the inside but not completely shut. I'm not the type to investigate dark corners for fun, so I kept walking to the stairwell. But right before turning the corner, I heard a noise behind me. A soft, dragging sound, like a shoe that didn't lift off the ground. When I looked back, the service door was completely open. Not cracked. Not halfway. Wide open. The lights beyond it glowed that dull industrial yellow you see in back-of-house hotels. And the hallway behind it was long, much longer than I expected. It stretched straight back into darkness, lined with cleaning carts, laundry bins, and exposed pipes along the ceiling. Something about it felt wrong. It wasn't the hallway itself. It was the fact that I felt watched. I went down the stairs, got my key reactivated, and came back up. The service door was closed again. I should have taken that as a win and gone to sleep. But around 3 in the morning, a sound woke me up. A heavy knock knocked on my door, on the wall behind my headboard. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. I sat up. My room backed up to the service hallway, according to the map on the door. Maybe maintenance was working late. It wasn't unheard of. But then it came again. 3 knocks. Same rhythm. I got out of bed and pressed my ear to the wall. This time it wasn't knocks. It was breathing, not steady breathing. Uneven. Rough. Like someone struggling to inhale. I stepped back from the wall. My heart was moving way faster than it should have. I told myself it was pipes, or ventilation, or water pressure, or anything normal. But the next sound killed any logical explanation. A voice. Right behind the wall. A man's voice. Close enough that it sounded like he was standing inches from me. He whispered one word. Help. I froze. Hello? I said quietly. Who's there? Boss? Then the same whisper, but longer this time. A shaky exhale between syllables. Help me. My brain started replaying every horror story I've heard about people getting stuck behind walls, abandoned maintenance workers, hidden crawl spaces. I knew I should call the front desk, or security, or literally anyone. But the guy behind the wall spoke again. This time, he wasn't whispering to me. He was talking to someone else. Multiple short sentences. Fast. Nervous. I couldn't make out the words. Husta tone. It wasn't a cry for help. It was fear. Like he was pleading with someone out of sight. Then I heard footsteps. Not from my hallway. From the service hallway behind the wall. Slow. Heavy. One step at a time. The man behind the wall went silent instantly. Not quiet. Silent. Like he was holding his breath. The footsteps came closer. I could feel vibrations in the floor. I stepped away from the wall until my back hit the opposite side of the room. I didn't know who was in that hallway or what was happening, but I knew the man asking for help was terrified of whoever was walking toward him. The footsteps stopped. Right behind my headboard, right where the man had been whispering. 4 or 5 full seconds. Nothing happened. Then came a different sound. Lower, angrier. A voice that didn't sound like it belonged to any normal person working a night shift. The voice said, "Why are you talking to him?" Not ass. Accused. A slow scrape followed. Metal dragging across tile. Then the man behind the wall made a quiet, choked sound. I backed into the bathroom and closed the door. I didn't turn on the light. I just stood there breathing as quietly as I could, waiting for the noise to stop. It didn't. Something hit the wall. Hard. Like a body being shoved into it. Then again. Then again. 3 hits. All behind my headboard. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I stayed in the bathroom until the sound stopped. Not because it felt safe, but because stepping back into that room felt worse. The hotel's air conditioning rattled through the vents like nothing was happening. Like someone hadn't just been slammed into a wall, feet away from me. Around 4:30 a.m., I finally cracked the bathroom door open. The room was silent. Too silent. The wall behind the bed looked normal. Not a dent, not a scratch. Nothing to hint that someone had been beaten against it. I grabbed my phone and called the front desk. The night worker answered sounding bored and half asleep. "Yeah. Someone's in the service hallway behind my room," I said. "It sounds like someone's hurt." Long pause. "Which room?" I told him. Another long pause. "Sir, there's no service hallway behind your room." He was wrong. I saw the floor plan. The map on the back of the door clearly showed a service passage running along the outer edge of the rooms. "I'm looking at the fire escape map right now," I said. My voice was shaking. "It shows." "No," he cut in. "That map hasn't been updated in years. That hallway was sealed in 2007. Construction accident. They bricked it over." My mouth went dry. "You're saying there's no access? No one can get in there?" "Correct." "So, who the hell is behind my wall?" He didn't have an answer. He just told me he'd send security up to take a look. Not check the hallway, obviously. Just walk around and pretend to care. 10 minutes later, someone knocked on my door. A firm, professional knock. Security. Or so I assumed. When I looked through the peephole, my stomach dropped. The man standing outside wasn't wearing a hotel uniform. No badge. No walkie-talkie. Nothing. Just a plain black hoodie with the hood down and jeans. His hands were in his pockets, and he was standing too close to the door. People normally give some space when they knock. This guy looked like he wanted to push his way in. I didn't open the door. He knocked again. Harder. "Sir," he said, "Easton didn't match any security worker I've ever met. Open the door. I need to check something in your room." "No," I said through the door. "Let the actual hotel staff come up." Silence. Not even breathing. He leaned forward until his forehead touched the door. I could see the pressure mark through the peephole. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You heard something, didn't you?" Not a question. A statement. I backed away from the door. He whispered again, softer this time. "What did he tell you?" Every instinct in my body told me not to answer. I didn't say a word. Then he started trying to handle. Slow at first, then harder, then full body force, slamming his shoulder into it. The deadbolt shook each time. I kept stepping backward until I hit the wall. After the third hit, he stopped. I heard him mutter something under his breath. It didn't sound frustrated. It sounded annoyed, like I was making him work too hard. Then, just as suddenly, he walked away. No footsteps echoing down the hall. No door opening. Just gone. I waited a full minute before calling the front desk again. "That's not our security," the worker said quickly. He sounded fully awake now, almost frantic. "No one was sent up. Stay in your room." I wasn't planning on going anywhere. A few minutes later, I heard the elevator ding. Actual security knocked on my door. This time they were wearing uniforms, carrying radios, doing the job properly. "Can we come in, sir?" I let them in and explained everything. The whispers behind the wall, the man begging for help, the footsteps, the voice, the guy in the hoodie trying to force his way inside. They checked the hallway, checked around my door, walked the entire floor. But when they tried the service door I'd seen cracked open earlier, it didn't budge. No give at all. Someone had sealed it with industrial screws. That door hadn't opened in years. One of the guards studied it and shook his head. "This thing wasn't open tonight," he said. The dust on this hinge would be disturbed." Dust covered the hinge completely. Thick, undisturbed. I didn't argue. Arguing would only make me sound paranoid. I already felt paranoid. They told me they'd switch me to a room on the 3rd floor, and I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag and we left together. As we walked toward the elevator, I passed the same spot where that service door used to be. Cracked open, the light above it flickered. Just once. A slow, deliberate pulse. The guard noticed it too. "You seen that?" he asked. I nodded. "It's been flickering like that all night," he asked. I shook my head, only when the door was open. He stared at the sealed door, then stepped closer to it. He rested his hand on the metal surface. It wasn't warm. It wasn't vibrating. It wasn't doing anything unusual. Then his radio crackled. "Unit 5. You good? Your camera feed cut for a second." The guard froze. Slowly stepped back. "My camera's been fine," he said into the radio. "Negative. It's been dark for 30 seconds. The guard looked at me, then at the sealed door again, and his voice lowered to almost a whisper. "We're leaving." "Now." We got in the elevator. The moment the doors closed, he let out a breath he'd clearly been holding. "You know," he said quietly, "that hallway wasn't bricked over because of construction." I looked at him. He wasn't joking. He wasn't dramatic. He looked uncomfortable. "It got sealed," he said, "because a night shift worker went missing in there. They never found him. They just heard him for a while. Through the walls." He paused. "Same room you were in." The elevator hit the 3rd floor. He stepped out, turned to me, and added, "If anyone knocks tonight, don't answer."